Hello, you right there. Thank you for tuning in to another awesome episode of the Wrestling Exchange. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Before we get started, though, I'd like to introduce my co-host, ladies and gentlemen. He is
Papo. Welcome back, everybody. Got an awesome show for you today. We're going to recap on Raw. And we just need my tag team partner here to throw out a little bit of disclaimers, and we'll get balls deep into this bitch.
absolutely right. First, a couple of quick things, just as a reminder. Listen, if you like what you see here, if you enjoy any of the content and just the stuff that we're going to get into, do us a favor. Click that like button. It really helps us out. While you're clicking the like button, why don't you just go ahead and move the mouse over, click the subscribe button. That helps too. You'll get an email whenever the episodes come out. We try to get them done every Wednesday. Sometimes, unfortunately, like this week, stuff comes up and we end up having to do them on Thursday. But hey, if you subscribe, you'll get an email. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. You'll know when it's available. Also, comment. There's that little box down there where you can share your opinion. At any point, if you disagree with us, if you agree with us, if you think we're just handsome and we're just wonderfully educated gentlemen, please let us know with your eloquent words down below. That being said, you can also go to the Facebook page, become a part of the discussion. You can submit your questions to be read on the show at tedandpapo@gmail.com. Follow us at tedandpapo on Twitter. By the way, I put all that shit in the description box down below, so it's super fucking easy. Don't be lazy. I did the work for you. Just go there. And again, excuse me. Last thing, Patreon. I don't know if you know this, but there's a way where you can contribute to this show. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying it's a requirement. We're not going anywhere. It's not like we're forcing you to take money out of your wallet. But if you want to help us kind of improve what we're working with, maybe get some better equipment, maybe put some better cameras, who knows? Or maybe you just want to become a part of the Ted and Papo community, you can do that if you go on the link in the description box down below to our Patreon page. Really help us out and help us improve what we're doing for you. Now, that being said, we have one quick disclaimer. This is a wrestling show by the fans, for the fans, and of the fans, which means we talk about pro wrestling, WWE Raw specifically on a weekly basis. So it's mature. It's intended for mature audience only. So bad language, innuendos, four-letter words, those are things that fly around here. And I got to tell you that if you're not down with that, my boy's got 2 words for you.
Tiggle bitties.
Oh, see, he's turning heel. He's wearing them shutter shades. All right. Now, Papa, with that out of the way, we got to discuss the... I'm a little rusty on my Samoan. Would it be...
Haka.
Cinco... Cuatro de Mayo? Raw? Right?
Exactly. Very nice. Your Samoan is brushing up, Dick.
Dude, hashtag Rosetta Stone. I'm all about that shit. All right, so let's talk about it, right? It's the 4th of May. It's Raw. We got all sorts of stuff. And, of course, we get an opening promo to start out the show. Papa, why don't you tell us about the kind of back and forth we got at the beginning of the show where Randy Orton comes out, he makes words, and then Roman Reigns comes out, and he decides that he's also going to make words, and they're going to make words at each other.
Well, definitely at the start of the show, we get a promo with Roman Reigns and Randy Orton. With these two guys going back and forth, they're setting up for the main event for Payback, which is, I believe, on the 17th, if I'm wrong.
Yes, so just a little over a week from now.
Yes. So last week they had a poll that ended up with a triple threat match with Rollins, Orton, and Reigns. So it was to be expected that this promo had to start off this Raw with just a little tiff, and you can see the anticipation building up between both Orton and Reigns. So for a little bit more detail, we got my man Chesky to go ahead and let you know what happened. Gay?
Let's talk about that. I'm going to break this down, and we'll kind of ruminate this for a second. So basically what happens is that Orton essentially promises that he's going to be walking out of Payback as WWE World Heavyweight Champion. As my partner said, Roman Reigns comes out, and he decides, in fact, Reigns says something very clever. He says he's going to be the one to get payback at Payback. And then the two go back and forth, and what's interesting here is, Papo, did you notice how, and by the way, and this is going to play into something a little bit later, This was in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, which, of course, is the home of the infamous Montreal Screwjob. Was it Survivor Series 97? Yes?
Yes.
So the crowd is fully behind Orton, and they're kind of not big fans of Roman Reigns. Papo, did that surprise you? Did you expect like a 50-50 split? Did you think that it was going to be all Orton and no Reigns? Did this? Tell me about it.
Canada is known for the dungeon. So they know real wrestling when they see it. Again, everybody knows that I'm a part of the Roman Empire, Super Uso himself. But the situation being is that he has a set skill set and is not as complex as Randy Orton. So they know who the better wrestler is. Now, I'm not trying to take away from Roman Reigns, but overall, Orton is the better wrestler.
Would it be safe to say that they both are from legendary wrestling stock, and that Orton's obviously established, and he was clearly on point from day one, excuse me, Orton at least, and Roman is just kind of like smoothing out the rough edges and getting to that point, because it does seem like he is getting a little bit better, and it does seem to be improving rather quickly. But you're right, Randy Orton's kind of like a more polished, more finished product, where Roman is still kind of working out the kinks and getting to where he wants to be. What's interesting here is that Orton kind of tells Reigns, he's like, look, man, I've been a 12-time World Heavyweight Champion. I've been in 12 consecutive WrestleManias. That sounds about right. I didn't bother to look it up, but I'm going to assume that's right around correct. And he compares that to Reigns, where Reigns has only competed in 3 WrestleManias and has never actually held a World Heavyweight Championship. Roman also reminds Orton about their history, where he defeated Randy Orton at SummerSlam, the former Legend Killer. At this point, New Day comes out, and they proceed to basically demand that the negativity has to stop, and that no one really cares about their Montreal boo-hoo job. I gotta tell you, I'm loving the New Day since they've embraced the kind of disingenuous baby faces. It's very similar to what Bo Dallas was doing in NXT, and he did for a while on the main roster before they kind of tweaked the Bo Dallas gimmick, where he's a bad guy, but in his mind he's a good guy, which is like that comes from it's a classic thing in like literature, movies, and the like, because some of the best villains think that they're doing the right thing. They think that they themselves will be seen in long term in the history as the good guys, so they don't think that they're evil. But what I really liked about this is that they're doing the Bo Dallas, where they're being so cocky and disingenuous that they're putting on the good guy face, but it's very clear that they're not good guys. And they reveal that Kane has set up a match as a 2-on-3 handicap tag match, New Day versus Orton and Reigns. And this is actually the first match to start off the show. Papo, why don't you tell us about the match and let the people know your thoughts without getting into the actual end of the match? Because we'll talk about the end in a few minutes and then what happens afterward.
Well, just to get it down to the bare bones, it was a decent match. I mean, the better that I've seen of New Day. And Booker T constantly came up with the same phrase a couple of times, stating that this is Freebird rules. I don't know if you caught that, Ted.
I did. I would like to see the Freebird rule. For those of you who aren't familiar, basically it was a rule that was instituted by, spoiler, the Freebirds, and it was the idea.
Fabulous Freebirds.
Weren't they the fabulous Freebirds in WCW, where he brought in Jimmy Jam Garvin, and they were just the Freebirds before?
I think they were always the fabulous Freebirds, but then they just cut it.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, basically, what the Freebirds did, Michael P.S. Hayes, I can never remember the second guy, Terry Gordy, and Buddy... Shit, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But basically, the idea was two of the three of them won the tag team titles, but at any given point, they decided that any two out of the three would defend them. Not doesn't have to be the two that won it. And I believe that was a stipulation they came up with when they were wrestling at World Class Championship Wrestling during their feud with the Von Erichs. And it was a very fun rule, and it kind of left this feeling in the air where anything can happen, and it kind of allowed the matches to have more drama. I like that. I would very much like to see the New Day do that. My only question is, Papo, is it pointless to mention that when they're not actually having a technically a tag team match? Like, although it's a handicap tag match, the emphasis is handicap and not tag. And it would only make sense to me if it was actually a title defense. Am I do I just have too many problems with this, or am I being a sensible person here?
No, your argument is valid. I mean, this match itself was a handicap match. I just brought up the fact that Booker T kept on mentioning that about Freebird rules. So, I mean, technically this wasn't a Freebird rules match. It was a handicap match.
Right. It kind of seemed like weird, forced, and out of place.
Exactly.
So what happens is that near the end, because I do want to get to this and then get your thoughts on what, the actual end and then what happened afterwards. We can discuss this. So basically near the end, Roman Reigns goes to spear. There's like, the tag team chicanery thing that happens where at the end there's like, baloney mess over here, baloney mess over there. Everybody is everywhere. Nobody knows who the legal man is, blah, 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 blah. Roman goes to spear Kofi, but instead Kofi moves out of the way and he spears Orton, which I believe at that point Big E dragged Roman out of the ring, and it was Kofi covers Orton for the win, and of course the New Day is victorious. So before we get into the end, or excuse me, the post-match, quick question. What do you think about the New Day winning this match? Does it hurt Orton and Reigns, or does it help the New Day?
It actually helps the New Day.
For everybody?
Well, you know what? Since you mentioned that, it is a win-win for everybody because it makes the New Day look strong as a tag team, as an established tag team, but then yet it just adds fuel to Roman versus Orton. Between themselves.
Yeah. I'm definitely with you on that one, just because we see this a lot, and especially in recent history, where the tag team champions will lose matches to like either one person, where I think it was, if I'm not wrong, Papa, it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago where the Kid and Cesaro lost to Orton by himself, right?
Yes.
When that happens, or when any team that's not an established team defeats the tag team champions, I don't like to use the word buried, but I do very much believe that it hurts them, right? Because when you put a title belt, or in this case, multiple a set of title belts or a pair of title belts on a group of individuals, you're saying that these guys, even if temporarily, even by unscrupulous means, they have won and they are at the top level. So for them to lose to non-established teams just doesn't make any sense. It just seems stupid and nobody wins. Plus, like as you mentioned, it adds that continuingly unfolding drama between Orton and Reigns and, they're butting heads. But after the match, Kane comes out and he decides that that's not good enough. The two of them are also going to have a match later in the show. And what happens? Oh no, excuse me. That's it, right? Like he books the match for Orton to face Reigns later on in the night, but then immediately afterwards, Kane bumps into Rollins backstage, and Rollins tells Kane that when the authorities returns, they're going to punish him for his actions because it's not actually best for business. They're supposed to be protecting the champion, not making him work. Not making him earn his respect or earn his place. Kane reminds Rollins that the decisions that he makes are best for business, and that Rollins will also have to compete in a rematch, of SmackDown's main event, which was Ambrose versus Rollins. Papo, did you see the SmackDown main event? Because I didn't.
No, I did not.
given the way that we return to rematches, well, we see this quite frequently where we have rematches of matches that took place on SmackDown. And this may seem borderline blasphemous, but do you think it's safe to say that if it didn't happen on Raw, it kind of doesn't count?
Yes and no. A little from column A, a little from column B. Que sera, sera.
So what happens here is that the Rollins kind of objects to this because Kane says that they're going to have the rematch because of the interference from last week, and J&J Security will be banned from ringside. And Rollins is like, well, they're not the ones that interfered. Kane, you're the ones that interfered. And then what happens is that Kane says, keep talking, and I'll make Ambrose a contender for your title. And, Rollins just kind of storms off all angrily. And then we get a very weird segment where Renee Young introduces Ryback for an in-ring promo / interview, except we really don't get an interview. There's no question and answer. There's no back and forth. It's just kind of almost seems like Ryback. Papo, you remember last week when Damian Sandow kind of told everybody how he came to be Damian Sandow, and that we said that it was very similar to Ryback telling his story a couple months ago?
Yes, I do. It was actually quite refreshing. I mean, it wasn't wrestling, didn't have to do with drama, but then yet he gave us a piece of his soul.
Yes. And it seems like he kind of rehashed a lot of that stuff here, where he said, because it's in reference to Bray Wyatt and his feud with Bray Wyatt, and how Ryback basically says that he eats negativity and puts it in the pit of his stomach and turns it into positivity. Excuse me, there's like this crazy bug on my keyboard. Die. It's dead. Moving on. Sorry about that. This is what happens when you do a show live. And that he's not a stranger to fear because he eats fear, essentially. He basically turns it into fuel, feed me more. Papo, did you notice that the Canadian crowd just really didn't give a shit about Ryback and decided that they were going to chant Goldberg instead?
Yes, they're trying to poo-poo on Ryback. I mean, if you look at the comparison, I mean, it's really close. Ball-headed, muscle-bound, just big, nasty.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I think I said this back when we had T-Bone on the show, and I lost some points of favor with you and him, where I think I said that Ryback is a far better wrestler than Goldberg, and Goldberg is not that good. He's just has an air about him, right? It's all presence. But it's very little filler, and that's just my opinion. And hey, if you think I'm an asshole and I'm underrating Bill Goldberg, listen, do me a favor, tell me that I'm a dickhead in the comment section down below. And if it's pertaining to what we're talking about, maybe we'll read it on the next episode. Who the fuck knows? I don't. But
well,
let's talk about.
I'll take that a step further. I'll take that and I'll put that on the Facebook page so you guys can answer. Who's the better wrestler, Goldberg or Ryback? Pay attention. It'll be up tonight on the Facebook page. 5,
Boom.
7, 15.
Boom. That's what we're talking about. Just getting all sorts into that shit, Also, and that link for the Facebook page is in the description box below, so you don't have to search for it. You can just clickety clackety linky and do the deal. But here's the interesting thing. So they're chanting Goldberg at him, which I don't know about you, but I feel like the past like 4 or 5 months, we've kind of moved on beyond that. Or at least Ryback has been able to show that he's not Goldberg, that he's an entirely different dude, that he may look similar, and they may have pseudo-similar styles, but there's no reason to chant Goldberg at him. What's interesting here is that Ryback acknowledges that the fans are chanting for Goldberg, and he basically says, yeah, I like him too. And then the crowd is kind of excited that he acknowledges their chant, and then they all break out into a feed me more. Is that a dangerous thing to recognize that chant? Was he telling them that it's okay to say that by reacting to it? Because it seems like it's a 50-50. Like, it could have gone one of two ways. He could have addressed it, and then it could have gotten worse, or what happened could have been what happened here, where he addressed it and it went away. Were you expecting the crowd to just go along with it once he acknowledged them?
Mm, Actually, yes and no. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to answer the same way, then the crowd to react the way they did. That is like how in KFAB it's the Ryan Seacrest syndrome, where everybody was making gay jokes at him, and then once he started to own them, they just stopped calling him gay. So,
So it's a win-win. So the Ryback
yes.
it wasn't that big of a risk. Bray Wyatt ends up responding on the Tron and says that he basically will expose Ryback's fears. Is it just me? And this is the last question I'll ask before we move on to the next segment. Is it just me, or does it seem like this particular segment was just filler, and they just needed time to occupy?
Well, they should have called this Apple because this was nothing but filler.
Oh, shots fired. So, we get a tag team match, and it's Kid and Cesaro, of course, accompanied by Kid's wife Natalia, versus the Ascension. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I do have a quick question, Papo. When was the last time we saw the Ascension on Raw?
Wow. Against the Lucha Dragons, I'll say about 3 weeks ago.
Really? Because for me, maybe I didn't see that match because it seems like so much longer. Uh, the Ascension wants us to remember that, hey, welcome to the Wasteland, and they were welcomed indeed with open arms because Cesaro and Kid pick up the win with the big swing dropkick combo, and yeah, that was that match. After that match, backstage, Renee Young interviews Rollins about his upcoming match against Dean Ambrose. And Rollins is not too pleased with Kane's decision, and he basically calls Kane a moron. Then we're treated to one of the better matches of the night, which is Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. So I gotta ask, for a crowd that this Montreal crowd seemed to go up and down, right? At certain points they were really, really awesome, and then at certain points they weren't that good. How awesome were they for this Ambrose versus Rollins match? Excuse me.
They had a nice pop for this match. They were quite lively. As for for Kid and Cesaro and the Ascension, not so much. But for this match here, they were quite active and quite lively. Kind of
Yeah,
a bipolar crowd.
yeah, I think that's a very good way to put it because the Kid and Cesaro match, the tag match, it seemed like they really only got into it once the big swing once Cesaro busted out the big swing. What's interesting, what I liked about this match, especially this crowd for this particular match, Ambrose versus Rollins, because we'll get into the nitty gritty of it in just a moment. This reminds me of shades of WrestleMania 18, right? It's Rock versus Hogan. On paper, Rock versus Hogan is not a great match, right? It's a good match, and it can be an entertaining match, but it's not a great match. But yet, in front of that hot crowd, and I believe it was Toronto, if I'm not mistaken, the crowd amplified the level of the match, which I can't speak for being in the crowd, but when you're watching it on TV, it really comes across that this is much more important than it may initially seem. How much do you think the crowd, or how successful do you think the crowd was in elevating the perception of this match?
Well, the crowd definitely popped at certain spots. Like every time Ambrose did one of the rope maneuvers where he'll like spring back or spin out from the ropes, the crowd definitely bought into it immediately. There was like no hesitation there. They didn't wait for the outburst of either a clothesline or a strike. When they saw him going to the ropes, they immediately popped.
Right, like they kind of knew what was coming, and they wanted to kind of enjoy that
Anticipation.
One of the things that happens just before the match is that Kane comes out and announces, because the match hadn't officially started, right? Like they didn't ring the second bell to start the match. And what happens is that he says that if Dean Ambrose happens to win this match, because again, remember that J&J Security have already been banned from ringside. That Ambrose wins this match, he will become added to the main event match at Payback, which will turn it into a triple threat, turn the triple threat into a fatal four-way. And there's some fun over the microphone. Like Ambrose is like, well, what do you got? Because Rollins objects, and Ambrose gets on the mic and says, well, everybody seems happy about this decision, so I'm all in. And I gotta say, Montreal was hot for this match. Is it safe to say that Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins not only killed it, but like I said moments earlier, that the fact that the crowd was super into it just kind of made it so much better than what it was? Not saying that it was bad, but really, really amplified a great match or a really good match into a great match.
Yes, I'm in total agreement. I mean, it was electrifying.
Oh, shit, if you will.
If you will.
So, it was an awesome match, for all intents and purposes, by the very end. Now, what's happened here is that J&J stormed the ring at the very end of this match, but Ambrose is able to knock them out of the ring, and it doesn't stop him because he's able to actually win with a roll-up, which adds him to this championship match at Payback. So, I got a couple of questions. Number one, Ambrose has had very few wins in the past couple of months. This win for him in a non-title match over the champion, this is good for him. Does it hurt Seth Rollins?
Actually, it does not, for the simple fact that we did have interference, so that keeps him strong as a heel. But it like slingshots Ambrose into a higher bracket.
That's exactly how I feel about it. So here's the next question before we move on. Given how hot the crowd was for this match, right, and given the fact that how they reacted after the match, would it have been better to end the show with this match, so that way when Raw goes off to the air, it goes off the air on a very high note with, at the very end, we've had a change to the main event, and that you would have had to have watched the show to the end to know that the main event has changed, at least perceivably.
Granted that this match had main event status and main event performance, it was actually played out really well how they placed this match so early in the show. So it had, well, I don't want to jump before the main event, but the drama that ensued after the main event was aligned perfectly.
Oh, definitely, because there's more stuff that follows, and I want to know what you people think. You people, I want to know what the people, I want to know what you think. Was this your match of the night? Was this your favorite match on Raw? Go ahead and comment in the section in the comment section down below, and we'll talk about that next week. Papa, let's keep this ball rolling, and let's talk about Byron Saxton interviewing Lana. Is it just me, or does it seem like they're turning Lana face against Rusev?
You see it. It's building, and I'm just waiting for Lana to slap the shit out of Rusev.
So Byron Saxton interviews Lana, right? And Lana kind of coyly pretends that she doesn't notice that the WWE Universe, i.e. the fans, are quite taken with her. And what makes this really interesting is that Fandango kind of waltzes. See what I did there? I used the dancing term. He waltzes into the frame and basically tells her it's okay, let the fans accept you, and to let it flow because the feeling is euphoric. What do you think about Fandango interacting with Lana? Maybe Lana becomes his new dancer? What are your thoughts, Papo?
I don't think she'll become his new dancer, but it's definitely slightly opening the door for Lana to go off on her own and leaving Rusev. And then slapping the shit out of him, too.
So this only lasts until Rusev enters and kind of barks angrily at Lana in some foreign gibberish. And then we get the match. We get Fandango versus Rusev. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I'm a big Fandango fan. I'm a big Rusev fan. This match didn't really do much for me other than continue to further the narrative that there is some tension between Lana and Rusev. Papo, are we getting worked? Is this just going to turn into something where we were wrong and that Lana was plotting all along and she's just trying to sucker us into this kind of lull us into this false sense of security? Or do you think she's actually going to turn on Rusev?
Well, we would all love for Lana to turn on Rusev. And you know what? The way you're perceiving it, it's perfect heel fashion. But then yet, Lana wants some of that spotlight too. And you know what? There's no honor amongst thieves.
Well said. I like that. That's what I'm talking about. I like the way you think, sir. So basically what happens, Fandango gets thrown to the outside, and he takes a moment. He actually gets Lana to do the Fandango, right? Rusev attacks Fandango from behind and then barks at Lana, sends her to the back, and then wins with the accolade. And we go from a high note to an okay note to a low note. To me, this segment we're about to talk about was the lowest part of the show. And it's not because of the actual match, but it's about something that occurs during the match. It's R-Truth versus Stardust. So Stardust comes to the ring with a plastic bag, right? And lays it in the corner. And not only is it visually evoking the Jake the Snake Roberts with the bag of Damien being the python or whatever fucking snake it was, whatever kind of thing it was. Not only is it visually evoking that, but I think Booker T kind of said it at least once, kind of referencing the Jake the Snake idea of bringing a bag of something to the ring, although obviously a plastic bag is far less nefarious looking than a burlap sack with a live snake in it. Multiple times during the match, Stardust tries to bring the bag into play, but is repeatedly cut off by Truth. At one point, Truth can finally no longer contain his curiosity. He opens the bag to find a bunch of toy rubber and plastic spiders, allowing Stardust to pick up the win. Papo, I'm going to be honest here. You mind if I just take a few moments? And Truth runs away after the match, being mentally and emotionally scarred by toy spiders. You mind if I just take a few moments and just poo-poo on this?
I got the ball. Actually, that's your toilet bowl. I'm throwing it at you. Sit on it and poo-poo.
Fucking flush that shit. Listen, I don't mind playing with the idea that R-Truth is afraid of spiders. It's called arachnophobia. Right? Many people have it. I have it. Papo may have it. I don't know.
Papo has it.
Papo has it. Many people have it, and surprisingly, many grown-ass men have it, like Papo and myself. But it just seems like you got a writer in the back going clickety-clackety, coming up with the script. Oh, hey, R-Truth is afraid of spiders. I'm afraid of spiders. Why doesn't Stardust do a thing with the Jake the Snake bag? And instead of being Damien, it'll be a bunch of toy fucking spiders. Wouldn't that be great? They always bitch about continuity. This is continuity. Papo. This may be continuity. Is it safe to say that this was complete and utter horseshit?
Horseshit is a compliment to what this shit was.
Oh, man. Okay, so if I'm being too nice, what would you call it?
I would call it lobster shit.
Ooh. That's the lowest of the low, man. You're talking about bottom-feeding crustaceans. And hey, if you there, the people, if you thought this was terrible, tell us how terrible you thought it was. What kind of shit was this? Was it lobster shit? Was it horse shit? Was it shark shit? Do sharks even shit? I don't know. Correct me in the comment section down below. This was terrible. But hey, speaking of terrible things, we're going to turn it around. Like a revolving door. What do they call those doors?
A revolving door.
I mean, come on. There's another word for it, right? Aren't they called something doors? Don't fucking say revolving. Don't. There's something else, man. They're rotating doors. Fuck you. Let's talk about the John Cena Open Challenge. So Cena, of course, cuts his obligatory pre-match promo where, in fact, he says the words, "I quit." Now, Papa, I gotta ask. I'm
Walking through a revolving door.
No, damn it. Revolving door full of spiders. So I'm looking at this, and I'm reminded of something. Do you remember 1999 Rock versus Mankind in an I Quit match? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember how Mankind didn't actually say "I quit," but The Rock and the corporation had an audio clip of Mankind saying the words "I quit," and the finish of the match was they just played the clip over the speakers so it sounded like Mankind quit?
Yeah.
When John Cena comes out and his first words out of his mouth are "I quit," does this make you think that that's what they're going with, or at the very least they're entertaining that notion?
Yes. Because he could be not even half into the accolade, and all of a sudden that clip goes and Rusev wins, and then the U.S. title is back to where it belongs.
It's kind of like Rusev almost has to win, right? Because if you think about it, it's 2-1 Cena, right? Cena's got 2 victories. Rusev has a victory. In fact, Rusev won the first match, and then Cena won the next 2 matches, and they're billing this as this is the final chapter in the feud, and I've heard that before, right? I've heard them say that we're not having another match. In fact, I think I've heard them say that with Cena and Orton. Like, this is the last time these guys will have a match. I think I've heard them say that like 6 times over the years. So I don't necessarily...
What about Jack Swagger?
What about Jack Swagger?
How many times has Rusev just stomped a hole in his ass?
Dude, Jack Swagger has... I want to be nice here, because I like Jack Swagger. But Jack Swagger is buried somewhere beneath WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. He has jobbed so many times as Rusev, it's not even funny. And he hasn't even lost. He has jobbed to Rusev. I'd rather see the Brooklyn Brawler face Rusev than another Swagger match. Although, to be fair, I would like to see the Brooklyn Brawler come out. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I have some theories about how this is going to play out, and again, I am getting ahead of myself. So let's talk about the actual match, right? Cena cuts promo, says that he will not quit, but if somehow Rusev were hypothetically able to make him say those words, the feud would be over because he, being Cena, would not deserve a rematch. He would not deserve to hold the United States Championship. Now, what's interesting here is the crowd keeps chanting the Ole, doing the Ole chant, the Ole, 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 which I think comes from the Bouncing Souls Ole song that Sami Zayn used to use in the Independents. And at one point, they start chanting Sami Zayn. We are in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and Cena does finally get around to acknowledging that this is the Open Challenge. Who's it going to be? And who is it that answers the challenge? Bret fucking Hart. Or at least it seems that way. Papo, I gotta ask, you're watching this. Were you watching Raw live?
Yes, I was.
So when Cena, just waits for his opponent, and you hear that dun 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 dun, and Bret Hart comes out, did you pop?
Yes, I did. Always been actually, I was a fan of Bret Hart when he was with the Hart Foundation. So that's what opened me up to Bret Hart. Always been a fan. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
You're talking about the OG Hart Foundation where it was just him and Jim the Anvil, right? Like way back when they were heels.
Natty's dad.
Yeah, Natty's tweaker dad. So Bret Hart comes out, and I gotta be honest, I kind of had a feeling where this was going. But I wanted to see Bret Hart put John Cena in the sharpshooter. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen. But when he came out, what were you thinking was going to happen? Right? Did you have any thoughts about what was going to happen, or were you just too wrapped up in the moment? Holy shit, Bret Hart's here in Canada, in Montreal of all places, and it seems to be every time they go to Montreal now, Bret Hart shows up. What was going through your mind when Hart shows up?
Well, knowing Bret's current health situation, I knew he wasn't going to wrestle. So it either had to be one of two things. Either he was going to attempt to wrestle,
or the Blue Blazer was going to answer the challenge.
Oh my God.
Too soon?
Too soon.
All right, fair enough.
Or he was going to introduce somebody.
Well, you're damn right about that, because he does proceed to say, I'm here to introduce a great wrestler. And he proceeds to kind of throw out platitudes about this person he's about to introduce. And then, wouldn't you know it, the one-man bam, baby, Heath Slater comes out. And Papo, did I not mention that last week I want to see him come out every week and just get screwed out of challenging Cena, like forever, as long as Cena's doing this challenge?
We've been doing it for 2 weeks now.
Oh, man. I hope it keeps going. I hope every week he comes out to challenge him, because this is the third consecutive week in a row where he's tried to answer the challenge. And he says, wait a minute, I will not let my moment to become the United States champion get stepped on again. First, I get RKO'd out of nowhere. Then Rusev attacks me from behind out of nowhere. I am sick and tired of getting attacked out of nowhere. And then Bret Hart hits him right in the face. How awesome was it that not only did he get cut off again, but he complains about getting hit from out of nowhere, and Bret attacks him from the front.
That was awesome. It was good to see Bret Hart get involved in the show. I mean, Bret Hart, big ups to you. And Heath Slater, you got jacked in the front.
And it's easy, right? Because like Bret Hart comes out, he doesn't have to do anything, but just the fact that all he needed to do to throw a punch, like all he needed to do to get us where he wanted to go was just to throw a punch, was awesome. And it kind of plays into what they were doing leading up to Raw 1000, where Heath Slater was losing to a bunch of legends coming back like Vader and Sid Vicious and the like. So Bret Hart continues, and he says, as I was saying, I came out here tonight to introduce to you a hometown boy, and I can't wait to watch you face off against one of NXT's hottest and biggest stars, Sami Zayn. Now, this is Sami Zayn's first singles match debut on Raw. I believe a couple of months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, he had a tag match, and it was like, was it him and Adrian Neville versus Tyson Kidd and Tyler Breeze, and it was kind of hyping their fatal four-way match for the NXT title. Were you excited to see Sami Zayn, A, in singles competition, and B, to be the one to answer the John Cena U.S. Open Challenge?
On both accounts, I was crazy excited. I've seen him wrestle in NXT. The boy can go. He is definitely one of the future stars of WWE. The boy is badass. The boy can go.
Can I go out? I'm sorry, go ahead. I started to cut you off, but go ahead.
I'm going to punch you in the neck. So
right, my big
to see him make his... Your beard's not in the way anymore, so...
I know. The people know that I'm chunky now. I can't hide it anymore. Hold on. Wait, there we go. All right, you were saying?
So to see his debut as in single competition for that U.S. title was actually awesome. So my man Ted is going to go into detail for this match. I was just in shock and just extremely excited to see this boy actually make his debut on a title call.
Yeah, man. I'm going to go out on a crazy limb here, which I don't think is much of a bold statement as it is something that we will see happen provided he stays healthy. I'm going to say that Sami Zayn is going to be the biggest star that we will ever see in the next 5 years. He's going to be kind of like John Cena, where Steve Austin talks about John Cena, and he always uses the words hellacious run. John Cena's been on top for 10 years. Even Hogan wasn't on top for 10 years. Austin wasn't on top for 10 years. Rock wasn't on top for 10 years consecutively. Sami Zayn is the guy that could replace John Cena, because he's just that good. And not only is he that good, but it's not when you watch John Cena, there's a portion of the audience that legitimately don't like John Cena, and then there's a portion of them that are fans of John Cena, and then there's a third portion where they're not necessarily fans of John Cena, although they respect him. They just find it like tired, old, and trite. However, here, Sami Zayn's not going to have any of those problems. He's what you would call a career babyface. Is very Ricky Steamboat-esque in the sense that he would never really have to turn heel. He's just that good. And I really think that Sami Zayn is going to be world champion, and that's just an inevitability. And he'll have, provided again he stays healthy, he'll have a long career on top because that guy will put asses in seats. And Daniel Bryan, I would thought could have been the guy to replace John Cena, but with increasingly sketchy health issues, I think that if anyone were to do it from this point on, it would be Sami Zayn. Now that I'm done kissing his Canadian ass, let's talk about this fucking match. Papo, we talked about Ambrose versus Rollins. We're talking about this match. Was this the match of the night with Ambrose Rollins being a close second?
I'm going to have to disagree with you for the simple fact that there was a few missed spots from Cena, and then Zayn. I know you saw it, I saw it, but it looked like he had the kind of like a shoulder injury. May have landed on it wrong, maybe.
Let's talk about that.
So, without... Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead, please.
If Zayn would have finished the match at 100%, it probably would have gone a whole lot better.
So, there's basically a point in the match, as my partner so eloquently put it, that Zayn appeared to be injured. And it looked like the shoulder. Now there's some contention on the internets, right? Some people think it was a work. Some people thought it was legitimate. I think it could have easily gone either way. I think that if he was injured, then that's no good. But injuries happen. It's pro wrestling. It's not ballet. But on the flip side of that, if it was a work, if it was not a legit injury and they just played it up for TV, then that just goes to show you how good Sami Zayn is, right? And I'm tempted to believe it was the latter, that it was just an elaborate ruse. I could be wrong. I'm tempted. I'm more so inclined to believe that, just because I've seen him portray an injury very convincingly before, like in his most recent match with Kevin Owens a couple months ago, actually, where he lost the title to Owens. It looked like he got knocked the fuck out, like that he was concussed badly. I know he wasn't, but he's just that good at feigning an injury. That being said, either way, it was a really, really compelling match. Did you catch, Papo, that Sami Zayn kicked out of an attitude adjustment?
Yes, I noticed that, which was awesome. Definitely awesome.
It's very interesting.
It's actually...
Yeah, no, go for it, please.
With the attitude adjustment, there's more and more people that are actually kicking out of it, which is discrediting John Cena.
I wonder about that, because I wonder if it's playing into the old man Cena story, right? Where he's getting over the hill and his time is, your time is up, my time is now. It's kind of like his time is coming up. Or, and I choose to believe the latter of the two, that it's not so much that it's a purposeful watering down of the effectiveness of that move, but it's more so,
he's just that damn good.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that he's just that damn good, right? Because think about it. The guy makes his debut, and I'm going to assume that there's a vast majority of people watching Raw on television that are not familiar with Sami Zayn, that had not seen him on the Independents and do not watch NXT and don't know how good this guy is, right? So the fact that he debuts, and I don't even think if it's a full debut, because I think he still has at least one more or two more matches in NXT before he officially completely comes up to the main roster, but it does a couple of things, right? One, to the casual fan who doesn't really know much about Sami Zayn, isn't familiar with him, to see how much the crowd was, how fiery the crowd was behind him, that kind of, oh shit, this guy must be really good. This guy must be awesome. And then, on top of it, he kicks out of an attitude adjustment, which is only done by perceivably top guys, right? If you can kick out of an attitude, if you can kick out of someone's finish, specifically a John Cena finish, that's a tip of the hat to say this guy is in the top 5%, right? That he is a bona fide main eventer. Maybe not right now at this moment, but has the potential to be. So I think it's a win-win because Cena gets a very competitive match. Long and the short of it, Cena does win with an attitude adjustment, so he still comes out of it with the win. Sami Zayn gets an awesome showing against a current champion. Still loses, but that's okay because he lost in a hard-fought battle, very hard-fought battle, and he was injured. Whether or not that's legit is kind of a moot point. But also, Papo, did you catch that torpedo DDT?
Beautiful. That's all I got to say about that.
And for those of you who didn't see the torpedo DDT, imagine the shit, dropping stuff. Imagine the corner of the ring, right? Sami Zayn, Cena's on one side, Zayn's on the other. Zayn runs and dives through in between the middle and bottom rope through to the other side. Still goes through the middle and bottom rope on the other side of the corner. And then this is all done on the outside of the ring. And then connects with a tornado DDT. I think he calls it the torpedo DDT. That thing's fucking incredible. And again, it just goes to show you how much faith WWE has in this guy as a future star. Because he's already a star in NXT, the developmental brand. But he will be, mark my words, he will be world champion in the next 3 to 5 years. Again, provided he stays healthy. But B, that to the casual viewer, holy shit, this guy's amazing. I got to pay attention to this guy. After the match, as I said, Cena does win with an attitude adjustment. Cena does something interesting here. He raises the hand of Sami Zayn, and again, they're in Sami Zayn's hometown. And then he gives him a show of respect, but then the champion, the winner, leaves the ring and allows the loser to have his moment in front of the crowd. Again, reinforcing the idea, at least subliminally, that this guy is a big deal. Papo, did that come across to you? That the champion left the ring and allowed the loser of the match to kind of soak in the moment? It's not something you usually see.
No, it's out of the norm, and it was actually quite refreshing. Show of good sportsmanship. I mean, Zayn took it to Cena, and Cena showed his respect. I mean, that was the highlight of the whole match, that respect. I mean, me being a martial artist, Tezki being an established wrestler, good sportsmanship is very rare nowadays, and to see it, it was refreshing.
Yeah, and it can be overdone, but when it's done right, it's good, right? Because sometimes it gets too cheesy, too over the top. But here it was very perfect because again, it even shows that Cena, this guy has Cena's respect, and Cena's top dog. Whether he's in the main event picture or not, he's still top dog. So let's talk about what happens after that, right? Immediately after the match, Renee Young, she's waiting backstage for Sami Zayn to walk by so she can interview him and get his thoughts about what just went down. But instead, heel move, the New Day come in and swoop the interview away from the presumed Sami Zayn, and they get to talk about themselves. So, Papa, a couple of quick questions before we move on. One, did it piss you off that you didn't get that moment with Sami Zayn? Was it effective in getting heat?
Yes, it was effective in getting heat. I mean, I was looking forward to hearing what Zayn had to say and give his input on the match, especially with the good sportsmanship that we mentioned earlier, and at least give a little bit of his input. But then we get New Day sucks. New Day sucks.
Actually, I believe it's New Day rocks.
Shut up.
So the New Day aren't immune, right? They get their comeuppance as well because Tyson Kidd, Cesaro, and Natalya, they come in and they remind them that no, the crowd is really chanting New Day sucks, and it kind of furthers that story that they're going to have that title rematch. And then we get Nikki Bella and Brie Bella. They come out to the ring. It appears that they're going to have a match, but instead they're jumped from behind by Naomi and Tamina. So, Papo, I want to get a couple of questions out of you. First, when was the last time we saw Tamina?
Wow, it's been months since we've seen Tamina.
Because it feels like a whole year to me. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, the last time that we saw her was building up to, I'm going to say WrestleMania 30. Was that she was working as AJ Lee's heater as her bodyguard, and that she ended up reluctantly getting put in that 10 Divas Battle Royal.
Yeah, you know what? You're right.
So follow-up
So,
question. You noticed that they're technically related, right? Because Tamina's the daughter of Superfly Snuka. He's kind of, I don't think he's like Samoan, but he's Tongan, and that's kind of like an extended thing, or they're like symbolically related. Talk about how this plays into uh, Naomi versus Nikki. Kind of talk about how that this family dynamic works.
okay, so we got the Bella twins, Brie and Nikki, which are twins, is one family, and they look out for each other, even though one hates and wishes the other one died in the womb. Then we have Tamina, who is cousins to the Usos, and the Uso is married to Naomi. She's married in, and by marriage, they're cousins. So we got the cousins versus the sisters, family versus family. You know I love that kind of grudge.
I can dig it, man. I'm all for family versus family. So last question before well no Naomi gets on the mic and says tells them that their referring to the Bellas that their sibling reign of dominance is over. So does this just seem like a rehash of AJ Lee with Tamina, just skinned a little bit differently? Instead of in the vein of she's my bodyguard, it's now in the vein of, well, we're kind of family too. Does that reek of that, or is this a little bit different than that?
But you hit it right on the nose. I mean, it's like me with an Adidas shirt. One day I wear red, next day I wear gray, next day I wear black, but it still says Adidas.
All day you dream about something. Uh, it's the
Sucks.
2015. It's the 2015 King, because there's nothing else I really have to say about that, because they didn't actually get a match. It was just cut short. Presumably they were going to face Naomi and Tamina. It's the 2015 King of the Ring winner, Bad News Barrett. All hail King Barrett. King Bad News. He comes to the ring and excuse me, the newly crowned monarch has come to dispense some royally bad news, and that is all hail King Barrett. And we're treated to a match: King Barrett and Sheamus versus Neville and Ziggler. First question: this match seemed kind of short to me. It seemed, I'm going to say, about 6 minutes. Would it have benefited given an extra 5 to 10 minutes? Did it just seem too short, or am I just upset that I'm not getting enough of Sheamus and Ziggler and Neville?
You know what? Your argument is valid. If they would at least another 5 minutes, this could have been a main event status match. Because the way they put it on was awesome. It was dynamic. We had the aerial attack from Neville. Ziggler always puts on a good clinic. And then Sheamus and Barrett. It had all the elements of an awesome match. But we were just like cut real, real short.
Can I tell you a secret? I'd like to see this match over and over again in different variations, right? Like, I'd like to see these same four guys in like a fatal four-way or like a four-way battle royal or just a number of different matches, because I really dig how everybody worked together. And what's interesting is that I mentioned this before. There's a tendency to look at a guy like Neville, right, and to refer to him as a quote-unquote spot monkey, meaning that he goes from one high spot to another high spot, like one big move to another big move to another big move, and that there's no psychology behind it, that there's no storytelling. I think that the way he wrestles lends itself to storytelling, and the story is essentially, yeah, this guy has a crazy high-risk aerial offense, but it's called high risk for a reason. It's in the name. It's high risk. Every time he goes to the top rope, he's taking a chance, and he does it a little too much. And here, that cost him the win, because he jumps off the top rope and he actually springboards from the apron to the top rope to hit Wade Barrett with something, and Wade Barrett catches him in midair with the bullhammer elbow and picks up the pin. I loved it. I thought it was great. Again, I just think that they didn't have enough time. We're about to get, ladies and gentlemen, into the main event. Here's what's going to happen. If you stayed with us so far, thank you. Thank you so very, very much. We're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to get into the main event, and then we're going to talk about the eponymous segment, The good, the
The
bad.
best segment in all wrestling internet.
Boom. His words, not mine. That's what I'm fucking talking about. Seriously, the most electrifying segment of all pro wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever, fuck you. I'm going to call it whatever I want. But before we do that, just a quick reminder again, like, comment, share. Okay, I didn't mention this earlier. If you like what you see here, tell your friends, right? Send them a link. Share it on Facebook. Share it on Instagram. Share it on Grindr, whatever the... wait, is Grindr the... Is that a sex app? I'm so out of touch. Is that like a hookup app? Am I just totally fucking this up completely?
I have no idea.
Share it on Zanga. It's a little old school for you, huh? Share it on LinkedIn. I don't know if LinkedIn counts. Share it on your social media. Get your friends watching.
MySpace.
MySpace. Boom. Get your friends on it, right? Because the more eyeballs watching, the more stuff we can do, the better we can get it, and the more books I can put behind me. So, the main event. It's Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns. Right before the match starts, Kane comes out with Rollins and J&J security to watch ringside. Jamie Noble grabs the mic and declares himself, the secret weapon of the Authority, as the special guest ring announcer, Joey Mercury, the muscle behind J&J, as the special guest timekeeper, Kane as the special ringside enforcer, and Seth Rollins as the special guest commentator. Couple of quick questions. Did you like how they kind of subconsciously or subtly stacked the odds against Reigns and Orton?
It was done very elaborately.
Second point. Rollins ends up on commentary here, and he proceeds to talk about Kane as if he trusts Kane again. Is this one step forward, two steps back? Because didn't we see earlier in the show that they were at each other's throats? Because it seems to be a continuity issue. I'm not sure where they're going here. Does that bother you, or am I just an asshole that just takes things out of proportion?
You're an asshole that takes things out of proportion. It's
Fuck
adding
you.
to the storyline. Dick.
So, you probably caught more of the match than I do. I had to do a lot of typing during this match. Tell me and tell the people what you thought about this match, and leading into the end of the match.
Well, after Jamie Noble provides with the Authority's position in this match, we got Orton, who's just ready to fight, and then we have Roman, who's trying to be the voice of reasoning in this match, pointing to them, trying to reason with Orton. Orton's not having this, and then the match starts. Now, they go back and forth for just a minute, and granted, they go ahead and use their fashion, but then, dun, dun, dun!
Well, wait, hold on. Before you do that, one quick question that I just remembered. Did you like, because this is one of the things I did notice, that there were a couple times in the match where they each went for each other's signature moves, but they each countered like they had already watched enough tape of the other individual to know what moves were coming. Although I didn't tune in entirely for that match, I did kind of dig that. How did that come across to you? Did you enjoy that? Was that just an extra tasty layer on this cake?
It was a tasty layer on this cake. It shows that they have each other scouted out and know what to look for and know how to counter immediately. So it shows that they're prepared for each other.
All right, now you can get into the dun-dun-dun. I didn't want to steal your thunder. I just wanted to get that point out there.
Dick. So with the thunder that was already stolen, dun, 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 we have interruption by the Authority. So we go in, so Authority gets in, and they try to go ahead and interfere with the match as it pursues. And then we get Ambrose chants from the crowd. I mean, like, rock level pops. Ambrose, Ambrose. And Ambrose comes running down to the ring after Roman and Orton are actually getting beat down by the Authority.
Now let's talk about that spot right there, right? Because he basically comes down and let's see, where was I in my notes? Orton RKO's Reigns, right? And then there's this look on Dean Ambrose's face, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like the exact same look that Ambrose had on his face when Seth
I know where you're going.
So, okay, where am I going? Hit me.
Where Rollins hit Reigns in the back with the chair.
And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that look is basically, whoa, that's my bro. Like, what are you doing, man? That's my boy. And then he proceeds to hit Orton with the double arm DDT, the dirty deeds. I liked that. To me, it kind of harkened back to that spot earlier, just after Payback last year. Tell me though, how good was that? How nice was that extra little bit of something? Just that reaction by him. Like, it's not just like, okay, now it's my turn to hit my finish. It's, oh, shock. Oh, that's my buddy. What are you doing? We're bros. Like, even though we're not a team anymore, that's my brother. We're tight. Fuck you. Double arm DDT.
It was awesome to see him that he had Roman's back. But when it comes to that fatal four-way, there ain't no team. It's everybody for themselves. But from the end of the day, Ambrose stood alone in the ring.
Is it just me, or does it seem like Ambrose is going to be the one to lose the Fatal 4-Way match? Because Roman needs to look strong. Orton needs to look strong. Ambrose is added last minute. It seems like because Ambrose hasn't had many wins in the past year and a half, that it looks like Ambrose is going to be the one to be pinned. Am I just reading too much into it? Because that's to me, that seems like where they're going. Like, I can see that very easily.
Technically, it's still too early to call that.
I mean, I don't want to get into predictions, but
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Come next week, I'll have a better idea on our predictions because it usually plays out through Raw. But as of right now, if it plays out the same way, then Ambrose will be the one that gets pinned.
All right. One final question before we move into the award-winning segment. If you had to rate the show, this particular Raw, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being Spiders in the R-Truth match, 10 being Ambrose versus Rollins or Zayn versus John Cena, what do you give this Raw overall?
Overall, I give it a 7.
Yeah, I think 7's good. I might give it like a 7.5 or like an 8. But yeah, it was really good. I mean, not the best Raw, but pretty damn good. Coming off the heels of some interesting weeks of Raw. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get into the good, the bad, and the fugly. So, Papo, do me a favor. Explain this segment to the peoples if they're not familiar with it.
Okay, so we go and give you the good, the bad, and the fugly.
Ba, ba, ba.
We give you our favorites, what we didn't like so much, and what we thought was horrendous. So, with no further ado, I'm going to throw the ball over to my man Ted, tag team partner, and let him give his good, his bad, and his fugly.
My good was the Sami Zayn versus the John Cena match. To me, that was the highlight of the night. It was very close. It was like Ambrose Rollins here, John Cena, Sami Zayn right here. Like, it was so close, so close. My bad, no Damian Sandow. Like, it was hard to pick a whole lot of bad things here, with the exception of the fugly. So yeah, no, the lack of Damian Sandow, I'm gonna say it's kind of cop out, but that's my bad. The fugly, the R-Truth and Cody, Stardust Spider Saga. That was just downright fucking ugly. My man, hit us with your good, bad, and fugly before we get out of here.
My good was the Seth Rollins Ambrose match. Them guys, they put on a clinic. We got a good reaction from the crowd. And let me tell you, Seth Rollins and Ambrose do have great chemistry together. My bad was the John Cena Zayn match. Well, I should say John Cena in the match. Zayn was awesome, but there were so many missed spots with John Cena. I feel Zayn carried most of the match on his own, and thus getting the good props. So the bad was John Cena in that match. My fugly is, you know what, Ted, is the same as yours. That whole R-Truth, Cody Rhodes, Stardust match with the bag of fake spiders, which we both admit we have arachnophobia. that whole match was just poo-poo.
Totally poo-poo. And listen, if you like this segment, if you enjoyed it, why don't you do us a favor and do yourself a favor while you're at it? Go ahead and tell us in the comment section down below what your good, bad, and fugly was. And you know what? You can do it to the Facebook page. Fuck, you can tweet us at Ted and Popo. Tell me what your good, bad, and fugly was. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Go to the Facebook page. Check out our Patreon page if you're interested in making a donation. Share with your friends on all your social media, blah, blah, blah. Popo, is there anything else we got to plug before we get the F out of here?
Thank you for watching. We love you. Keep watching. Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. And just like the WWE, my boy and I, we're going to get the F out. Peace.